Most of us are lucky enough never to have to think much about organ donation, but some people can't go an hour without thinking about it. By the end of every day, about 22 people in the United States have died waiting for a donated organ. And about 150 people are added to the organ transplant waiting list every day. Also, every day, nearly 100 people receive an organ transplant and get a shot at a new life. And here's another remarkable statistic. One person can save 8 other lives by being organ and tissue donors. We take a look at the need, the gifts, the miracle of donating life to another human, and meet one of the recipients of that gift who is thriving after a heart transplant. Fox 11 News in Depth starts right now. Hello, everyone. I'm Hal Eisner, and this is Fox 11 News in Depth. What a remarkable thing it is to be able to give someone a new life. That's basically what an organ transplant will do, and that's not even getting into the healing brought about by donors of tissue or corneas. Our next guest is intimately familiar with all of this. He's about 2 years out from a heart transplant surgery, and by his own account is vibrant and energetic and thriving in his new life. But that's not all. As an astonishing twist, his mother is also a heart transplant recipient of a number of years ago. Steve Kammerer joining us right now, Steve Kammerer Jr. And, you know, it's pretty remarkable. You and Mom.
Yep. My mom, about 13 years prior to me, she's doing well. She's happy and healthy and enjoying her grandkids and her kids.
You know, we talk about this as being a gift, and it is a gift, but the gift of life, because you're giving somebody a chance at extending theirs.
Yes. It's an incredible gift that I don't intend on taking lightly. It's the most incredible gift somebody can give is the gift of life.
How was that situation for you? You had some heart issue, and I assume since you're on TV here with me, you don't mind talking about this,
No.
But you had some heart issue. You required a new heart, or?
Yes, yeah. So it got down to where it was a lot of years leading up to it of heart issues, and so it wasn't a sudden thing. We kind of had anticipated it for years, and eventually I was, at work on a Friday, and then went in for some tests on a Monday, and to Cedars-Sinai, and after the test, they decided to keep me, and they increased, or they moved me up on the transplant waiting list once I was.
Because it was that critical?
Because it was that critical. I was connected to monitors that essentially went into my heart and stayed in my heart through the entire time, monitoring the function of my heart and the pressures in there, and I was on an IV medication for about 60 days. I was in the hospital for a total.
What was the recovery like for that?
It's funny. I spent almost 70 days waiting, and after the transplant, I was standing up. You had some video of it in the beginning, and walking the next day. They really try to get you out of there as
I just saw some words there. I was crying, and tell me about that reference.
Probably the hardest part of the transplant process. It was the mental toll it took on me waiting in the hospital that long. There's a lot of people that wait a lot longer than I did, so I don't take that for granted, but I was in there for 70 days waiting, just waiting for an organ to come available for me.
That must have been a rabbit hole.
It was. Mentally, it was, a lot of downs, some ups, but it really takes a toll on you after a long time.
But then you get the word that there is a donation.
Yes.
And then what happens to you?
People ask me if I was nervous at all for the surgery or anything like that, but no, by that time I was ready to get on with it. Good outcome or bad.
But then you get the heart, and there's a potential for rejection.
Yes. So afterwards, you're monitored very closely. You do biopsies weekly and then monthly. They stretch it out, and they're taking tissue samples of the organ and
Were there any rejection issues?
I was very lucky. I did not have any rejection issues.
Does that happen often?
It does, and they basically adjust medications and hopefully they're able to get that under control.
I'm fascinated by the notion that it's you and your mom. So let me just start off with the question of, did you have heart issues in your family? And did it just sort of pass from one to the other? And then this idea that mom and you both, I guess, ended up with exactly the same problem with the heart, and then you end up with exactly the same remedy.
Yes, so my mom and I share a lot of things in common. We've been electrically shocked to get our hearts back into a normal rhythm in the same room at the same time. Previously, we shared, most of our doctors have all been the same doctors. My mom had a defibrillator put in her. She had one of the very early implantable defibrillators it was the size of like a VHS tape almost. It was really large.
I've covered these things for a long time. I remember some of the baby heart transplants over at Loma Linda University Hospital. And what's it like? What's that feeling to have somebody else's heart inside your body?
It's a surreal feeling. It's almost can kind of drive you nuts if you think about it too much. I do have instances where I'm in the middle of something and I think about it and it kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Have you met anybody from the families of those people that gave you that heart?
I have not. I've reached out. I sent a letter, but it's really it falls on them whether they want to make contact with me.
Tell me about the recovery a little bit. You know, how long is that? How fragile is that?
So the beginning is very fragile. You are constantly being poked and prodded and tested to make sure that you're not experiencing any rejection or anything like that. There's a lot of swelling involved, and it's difficult to get around, and you're just very uncomfortable. But miraculously, what the doctors tell you is give it till about 3 months, and you'll start to feel
better.
A little.
And how healthy are you now?
I'm very healthy.
Ready to run around the studio a few times?
I could. I've started racing mountain bikes since my transplant.
Really?
Yes. I have gotten really into mountain biking, and I use, I
something you couldn't have done before the heart transplant.
Correct. Wow. Correct.
Steve Kammerer Jr. So glad you're here.
Thank you very much for having me.
I mean, without that heart.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I thank you so much for having me on and doing this story, because it's very important that people donate. There's a lot of rumors out there, that are not true.
We're going to talk more about that as the show progresses, but thank you again and all the best. A doctor weighs in on organ transplantation and what innovations are being implemented to make the process better in the future. We'll have that coming up.